Welcome to our discussion of Chapter 11. So in this video, we're going to briefly discuss the concept of decentralization. So what does it mean for a business to be decentralized as opposed to centralized? Well, with a decentralized organization, it means that lower level managers have more responsibility and autonomy when it comes to making decisions. So this is opposed to all of the decision-making power coming from those top-level executives and those top-level managers. In a decentralized organization, a lot of that responsibility is given to those lower-level managers so they can, on their own, make decisions within their divisions and their areas. So there are some pros and cons to this, so we'll discuss those here in turn. But on the surface, decentralization seems like a desirable structure of a business, especially from the perspective of those lower level managers. So what are some pros? What are some advantages of a decentralized organization? Well, we can imagine that if a manager has a lot more responsibility and autonomy in his or her work, that is likely to lead to a lot more job satisfaction, right? That employee being a lot more motivated in their work and a lot more invested in their work. So that decision-making authority can really increase job satisfaction. And a second advantage is the fact that lower-level decisions are often based on better information, because who knows their division better than the manager in charge of that division, right? So with decisions being made by lower-level managers, oftentimes it's fueled by better information, because sometimes those decisions coming from the top level executives and managers, they might not have the most up-to-date, accurate information as would a lower level manager. Not to say that information wouldn't be shared, but oftentimes there's expertise involved and experience involved as well with those lower level managers. So oftentimes they're better able to make better decisions. Another advantage is that with decentralization, that frees up a lot of top management's time, and they're able to focus more on strategy for the entire company. And as far as lower level managers are concerned, they're able to gain experience by being involved directly in the decision-making process. So it's really a win on both sides in that case, because the top level managers can free up some of their time to focus on other goals, where lower level managers can actually get some valuable training and experience and by being handed more responsibility. And another advantage is the fact that lower level managers, being, lower level and more and closer to the customer, they're more able to quickly respond to customer needs. So those lower level managers, if they have a lot more responsibility in making decisions, if there's an issue that arises with a customer or anything related to a customer, they're able to respond a lot more quickly than would a really higher level manager or executive. Now, decentralization is actually, it seems like it's all good, but there are, a couple of cons here and there, but not to the extent that decentralization is not a really good way to run a business. But let's look at some disadvantages. So if lower level managers are provided with extra responsibility in making decisions, sometimes some of the managers might not see the big picture when they're making decisions. And when I say big picture, I'm talking about the overall best interest of the entire organization as a whole. So if lower level managers have a lot more responsibility, it's important for them to make sure that in the back of their minds, they have the best interest of the company at heart, not just their division or not just their bottom line. But because, for example, some managers might have bonuses or compensation tied to results. So we want to make sure that they're not making decisions just to get them a bonus or to get them that extra check at the end of the year, but to make sure that their decisions aren't just benefiting them and their division and their area, but also the entire company as a whole. So another disadvantage is that there might be a lack of coordination among autonomous managers. So if you have a lot of these lower level managers that all of a sudden have autonomy and decision-making power, sometimes they might disagree, right? So that is a natural result of decentralization that's bound to happen at some point where there's lack of coordination or even disagreements among managers. Another disadvantage is that the lower level manager's objectives may not be those of the organization, similar to that first disadvantage that we talked about. So a lower level manager might have his or her own goals that they want to meet, but that might not always be in alignment with the entire company's vision and mission at the end of the day. And lastly, it may be difficult to spread innovative ideas in the organization if every lower level manager is autonomous, making their own decisions, having that responsibility for their own area. It may end up being a little bit more difficult than if there is a new idea, if the company's moving in a new direction, it might be a little bit more difficult for those top level managers and executives to get everyone on board if they're all driving their own car, so to speak. So there are some disadvantages, but we can really argue that these advantages of decentralization in many cases might outweigh the disadvantages depending on the company and its situation. So we're going to pause the video here, and in the next video we'll continue on with a discussion about responsibility accounting.